From November, Singapore residents can set sail on round-trip cruises with no ports of call. Part of a safe cruise pilot, 2 cruise lines have been given the green light to offer cruises to nowhere from Singapore at reduced capacity of 50%.
Genting Cruise Line's World Dream will begin sailing on November 6, while Royal Caribbean's Quantum of the Seas ship will set sail in December. All passengers will have to be tested for COVID-19 prior to boarding and comply with safe management measures when on board, like mask wearing and safe distancing of 1 meter between groups of passengers.
Meanwhile, the Singapore Tourism Board said all cruise lines must be audited and receive Cruise Safe certification to sail out of Singapore. Cruise Safe standards include implementing infection control measures at every stage of a passenger's journey, as well as strict and frequent cleaning and sanitization protocols on ships.
STB added that crew on pilot cruises will also be subject to stringent measures beyond Singapore's prevailing requirements for cross-border travel. The government will monitor the outcomes of the pilot sailings carefully in the coming months before deciding on the next steps for cruises.
Now, the Straits Times conducted an online poll today asking readers if they think it's safe to go on a cruise to nowhere. And here are the results. Well, it's a close call, but more people find it safe to go on such trips. We're pleased to have Dr. Leong Hoe Nam, an infectious diseases specialist at the Rophi Clinic, back on the show to discuss this further. Hello, Doctor. Welcome back. We want to hear your thoughts on this announcement. Are you surprised that cruises to nowhere are resuming now? From a medical and health standpoint, is it a good time?
No, I'm not surprised. If you think about it, they've been thinking of flights to nowhere. I think cruise to nowhere is a way to start, and Singapore being a cruise capital for the region, I think it's a good place to start. On top of that, we are going to implement the Singapore CHOP, the Singapore trademark certification that this is safe. I've looked at the protocols and I think it's going to be good. I think we're going to be fine with a cruise to nowhere starting from Singapore.
Now, you know, still fresh in people's minds is, of course, the Diamond Princess cruise ship, which was quarantined off the coast in Japan in February after more than 700 passengers and crew members fell ill. What are the lessons that we can learn from that incident?
The Diamond Princess was a bit of a disaster. Number one, patients fell sick. They didn't know they were sick. They went on board the ship and there was very little understanding of the disease then. There was no way to screen the passengers before and after. And number two, they kept the passengers on board and everyone was still mixing around. As you realize, this virus loves people to mix around. When you mix around, they spread around. And if you put everyone on board the ship and everyone meeting together, chances of them transmitting is very high. Number three, you have buffet settings. Buffet settings where the viruses spread very quickly. So not exactly ideal, and that's the Diamond Princess story. But I'm going to share with you another cruise story. Now, in the first half of the year, besides Diamond Princess, there was another ship that was stricken with COVID-19. It set off in Argentina and went down to Antarctica. And guess what? Many people fell sick with COVID-19 as well. However, there was a major difference. People went aboard the cruise ship knew about COVID-19. They got themselves prepared by getting themselves masked up. When they went aboard the cruise, many people still fell sick, but a overwhelming majority, more than 81% of them, had no symptoms or very mild symptoms. What it shows you then is that, number one, the cruise ship is a place at which transmission may occur. Number two, however, if you wear a mask, you can actually effectively prevent transmission from one person to another. If not, minimize the transmission right down to something that's very, very simple and mild. So this is something which is encouraged, and we should. If you think about the cruise line now in Singapore, what are we doing in Singapore? We have our distancing, we are masking. When we actually go onto the cruise ship, we are doing exactly the same thing with the distancing and masking. So what difference is there being on land and on sea, given that everyone else has been tested negative? So I think it's good to go.
Right. I want to pick up on the point where you talked about confined spaces on cruises. And of course, just to add on to what you've mentioned regarding masking up and all that. Now, ships also have a centralized ventilation system, but cruise lines have said, of course, that they will introduce safety measures to ensure 100% fresh air throughout the ship. Now, how do you reckon this can be done? And on that note also, what else do you think they should look out for?
Okay, it's actually quite good because if you actually have a centralized air conditioning area, it sounds terrible because all the air will come in and mix. But if you think of it the other way, it's a place where you can put in filters that will filter the air. So what comes in may be dirty, but what goes out will be clean. So in that case, you have clean air going out to everyone, it'll be fine. No doubt, I'm concerned that everyone is locked up on board the ship and close confines, but in truth they are not really all close confined together because they are going to go and run at 50% capacity, which means there's a lot more freedom. You don't have to queue up long, and I'm very sure they're going to adjust the feeding and the buffet dinners somehow or rather such that they comply with Singapore rules, at the same time have the pleasure of cruise sailing and cruise fun.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Leong, for the inputs. As always, it's a pleasure to have you on. We were speaking to infectious diseases specialist at the Rophi Clinic, Dr. Leong Hoe Nam.